Hi, thanks for joining me today. I'm Lucia Sheehan. I am the Executive Director and the founder of Violence Free Living, and this is our fourth session. Today we're going to talk about relationships, manipulation and control, and grief. But first, I'd like to remind you, if you have not taken the pre-test, please go to our link below and fill out the pre-test. There'll also be a post-test, so we need both of them filled out. But for right now, just fill out the pre-test. And also, I'd like to remind you, if you have any questions during this session, to please visit our website and put the questions up there. We will certainly answer any question that you have. First, we're going to review a little bit about last week, the side effects of abuse in relationship and why people stay, and we went through all that. But again, the main reason we have this class, one of the main objectives of this class, is your own behavior. You have to understand your own behavior. Nothing anybody else does is going to change you. You have to understand why you make the choices that you make in life. So the first thing we're going to talk about this week is what is an unhealthy relationship? You know, we often wonder that. We relationships have ups and downs and disagreement and arguing, and that's okay. It's when one person starts wanting total control or the disagreements start getting abusive, that's when you need to look at it and say, is this what I want in my life? Because you choose, you bring the people into your life who you want in your life. So what is an unhealthy relationship? I didn't know what a healthy relationship looked like till I was in my late 40s. Hopefully a lot of you watching this are a lot younger than that, and you'll have many, many years of a healthy relationship. So let's see. How about looking down on your partner, or yelling all the time at your partner, or shoving your partner a lot, controlling and manipulating your partner? And we're going to get more into detail on that here in just a little bit. How about ignoring your partner's thoughts and feelings? Everybody wants to know that they bring something to the table, that their input is good, that they matter. So if you're struggling, if you're trying to fix something, if you're having a bad day and your significant other tries to help and says something, a lot of the time if we're stressed, we bark at them or we come off aggressive, and they're just trying to help. We could use the same energy by just taking a breath and saying, you know what, thanks, but I think I just need to be by myself right now, or I might try that, but I need to figure this out. Or as far as ignoring your partner's thoughts and feelings, how about just telling them? How about just coming and saying, thanks for being in my life. Thanks for always picking up the laundry. Thanks for always having dinner. Or just thanks for being there for me. That would be great too. Or how about embarrassing your partner in front of others all the time? If you're the type of person that is always has to embarrass your partner in front of other people, you might want to look at some issues within yourself, because that's not your partner. It's probably something that you are not dealing with. How about told what you can and cannot wear? Or made to feel afraid of your partner? That's we don't want that in a relationship. Your partner should be the one person you can go to for anything. That is your safe place. You should be able to go to your partner to with your dreams, your goals, your ideas, your fears. Anything you should be able to go to your partner with. That should be a safe place for you to share. And if it's not, you might want to look at that. Just make choices on what's healthy for you. I have some statistics here that I think are very interesting. It kind of proves that it's across the board what we talked about at the very first week. 43% of women, 26% of men in multiracial non-Hispanic households suffer partner violence. 39% women, 18.6% men in American Indian, Alaska Native households suffer partner violence. 26.8% women, 15.5% men in white non-Hispanic households suffer partner violence. 29.2% women and 23.3% men in Black non-Hispanic households suffer partner violence. 20.5% women, 15.5% men in Hispanic households suffer partner violence. So it is across the board. And overall, approximately 90% of domestic violence, the man is the perpetrator. But again, remember from our first week, that's statistics. So men don't come forward for many reasons, which we talked about. But statistically, approximately 90% of domestic assaults, the man is the perpetrator. So now we know, after our first few classes, is that battering, abuse is not caused by genetics. It is a learned behavior. It's not caused by alcohol. It's not caused by out-of-control behavior or stress or anger, and certainly not the victim's behavior. We also know that 50% of men who abuse women were either abused or witnessed their mother being abused when they were young. And it is a learned behavior. as we learned last week and the week before. It's through observation, it's through television, it's through an early age, it's through all types of media, not just television. So we also know that it comes from all of that. But now I'd like to go into something else that helps people understand how they build, what they build on, and the different levels that they go through to have healthy relationships, to have a healthy lifestyle. So this is Maslow hierarchy of needs, and it's used many places. But Maslow in 1943, the medical profession, psychology, counselors have always tried to figure out what makes humans advance to the next level or tick or move on. So in 1943, Maslow came through to this and he said, hey, I've got it. I think I know what it is. And to this day, a good percentage of psychologists say, yeah, he was pretty right on. So I just want to run through these really quick with you. The first one is the physiological needs. And those are the literal things that we need, requirements we have to have, humans have to have to survive. We have to have air. We have to have food. We have to have water. We have to have sleep. And we have to have sex. If we don't have those, we're going to die. And the sex, this is not your intimate sex. This is the sex to keep the human race going. If we don't have those things, we're going to die, or the human race is going to die out. The next thing we have is called comfort, safety and comfort needs. People want and hope for predictability. They want an orderly world. They want where unfairness is under control. They want to be in a place where they're protected. There's a grievance process. Security. They have some security. Once those are met, then they move up to the next one, which comes to the security, which is from the love and belonging. The love and belonging needs are emotionally based relationships. Humans need to belong. We need to belong. We need to be accepted in any means, not just teens. I've talked before about teens. All of us need to belong. We need to know that we matter. So we're going to belong to different social clubs or social groups or office culture, religious groups, gangs, a partner, significant other, sports, even a mentor. You're still belonging to someone else. You still have that connection. And I just kind of want to point out here just one little thing. I have a lot of people in jail and prison comment to me, when I'm locked up, I get so close to my religion. And I get so close and I make all these promises and I'm so right on. And then when I get released, I lose my faith. That's not necessarily true. And they're like, I don't understand. Well, if you look at this, that's not necessarily true, because if you look at this, when they're incarcerated, they already jump up to that third row, the friendship, family, and the religion, because they already have air, they already have food, they have water. That first line level is totally taken care of. And pretty much the second level is taken care of. They have some security. They have some grievance procedures. They complain. It might not be the best, but they do have something in place to help them. So they have all the time that they need to check out religion, to get into within themselves and see where they are with their religious needs. Once they get released, a lot of people when they're released get knocked right back down to that first rung. They're trying to figure out where they're going to lay their head to sleep at night. They're trying to figure out where they're going to get their food. They're trying to figure out where they're going to get water. So it's not that they lose it. They just go back, which we all do. We go through in and out all these levels through our life. And once they understand that, it makes a little bit more sense. So the next thing we come to is self-esteem, the esteem needs. Everybody needs to be respected and have self-esteem, self-confidence, just like needing to belong. We all want and have to have a need of usefulness. It gives us that acceptance. It gives us that being valued that we desire so much. People need to have that recognition. They have to feel like they contribute to something. And if we don't get these, then there's some things that could possibly set in. Things such as low self-esteem or depression. How about inferiority complex, where you think everybody's out to get you? Or maybe even a feeling of weakness or helplessness. It's not a good feeling to have. But unless those needs are met, that could creep into how we feel about ourselves. Then the last one is they call it the self-actualization needs. It's kind of like what one's fullest potential, what one can do, what one can get to. I just want to point out that this top one is not about money. It's not about achieving tangible goods. It's about knowing who you are here, knowing who you are within your soul, within yourself, being comfortable with who you are, fulfilling who you are. I think looking at these helps, at least it did me, help me understand some of my choices and where I was in life. And when I kind of would beat up on myself, looking at this made me realize I was going in and out of those different levels. So hopefully that'll help you too. So now we're going to talk a little bit about manipulative and controlling behavior or relationships. Signs of a manipulator. I'm going to talk about these, but I'm going to put them all up here on the screen first so you can kind of follow along with me. Do you find yourself always falling short of your partner's expectations? Common comments from a manipulator would be, oh my God, so you're going to get all emotional again. I can't believe you want to talk about that again. We've already talked about it once. You're going to interrogate me? What's happening there is that that person, that manipulator, wants to shut that conversation down before it even gets started. How about if you feel guilty? They might say things like, you know what, I spent all this money on you. Look how you repay me. No, that's not good. You do something for someone because you want to do it, not because you expect something back from them. You don't want to control them. How about I try to explain, but you never listen? Again, that's a manipulator trying to take control. How about you don't know where you stand with your partner? A manipulator often uses open threats to keep their partner anxious. What about if you're having an argument or you're having a discussion and all of a sudden somebody says, this isn't even working for me anymore? Or worse yet, I'm not going to take this anymore. I'm out of here, and walks out the door. Wow. That's a pretty powerful comment. That's a pretty powerful example, because what that manipulator has just done is put the other person on the defense. Now that other person's thinking, oh my God, did I go overboard? Did I make too big of a deal of this? I'm so sorry this happened. The manipulator knows that. They know by the time they get back, that person's going to probably be apologetic and things are going to have calmed down. They know exactly what they're doing. Or you're always walking on eggshells. You know, sometimes your significant other might come by and give you a hug or a kiss. And then a few minutes later, you go back to be very kind to them or give them a hug. And they're like, what's going on? You never know where you stand. That's their way of keeping you in your place. That's their way of manipulating that relationship. How about, is my relationship healthy? Evaluate honestly. How about, are you enjoying positive esteem from friends and family? That would be a big one. Are you doing things you wouldn't normally do? Like taking drugs or drinking a lot more or putting all of your goals on the back burner so that they can get what they want. Does your partner bring out the best or the worst traits? That's what you have to decide. I can't answer that. Does it bring out your best or your worst traits? And you have to be honest. And if people are bringing out your worst traits, why do you have them in your life? We don't need people in our life just because we need somebody in our life. We bring people into our life to enhance our life, not just to fill a void. Do you defend your partner's behavior? Are you listening to what others are saying? Because when we first meet somebody, we definitely are going into this infatuation sometimes even. We go into infatuation and we're not listening to what others are saying because we think we know best. But unfortunately, when we get into an infatuation period, when we first meet somebody and we get all butterflies, palm sweating, heart beating fast, we do become blind to their faults. We don't want to see that at all. So we don't see any of their negatives. So that is the time you should be listening to somebody else. That is the time when your family or friends are saying, whoa, you might want to look at this. We are all going to have people in our lives, more than one, that we're connected with, that we can have a connection with, sexually or non-sexually. And it's up to you when you get in a relationship. How do you want to do that? Relationships are not 50-50, regardless of what anybody says. I've heard so many people say, well, it's 50-50. We each bring 50. No. If that person that you're with isn't worth 100% of your time, then you might want to look at a different partner. Do you always find yourself apologizing for your partner's behavior? That's not good. You shouldn't have to apologize for your partner's behavior. Oh, you know what? He or she went through a horrible separation or a horrible divorce. They're still dealing with that and getting through it. No, they deal with that before they get into another relationship. We don't drag all of our negative past into the future with us, into a new relationship. We don't put that burden on a new relationship. We deal with that and then we go into a new relationship. How about if your plans are always overturned? How about you have plans with your friends to meet like at 7 o'clock and your significant other says, you know what, 6:50, I think I'm going to start getting ready. And you got to call everybody and say, you know what, we're going to be late. I'm sorry, you can come over here and sit and have a drink, or we'll meet you just a little bit later. because that person knows exactly what they're doing. They're controlling everybody because they always have to be in control. It's always going to be about them. They know exactly what they're doing. Remember, manipulation is when your partner gets you to do something you really wished you hadn't done. And you know, a manipulator likes to get you out of your comfort zone because then they can pull all those strings. They can be the one that's in charge all the time. How about backhanded compliments? Backhanded compliments. At first, we think they're kind of cute and funny, but they really aren't. How about somebody saying something like, "Oh my gosh, it's a good thing you're so attractive"? Yeah, that can be kind of funny, but really, what it does, it implies that you're stupid and incompetent. The only thing you're going to get by on is your looks. You have nothing else going for you. Or how about if somebody says, "Boy, it's a good thing you're with me. I'll take care of you." That actually implies nobody else really wants you. Nobody else really cares. So, with all this, a manipulator, what that is that they want to get you out of your comfort zone. And at first, these seem funny. At first, they seem cute. But over time, you're going to understand, you're going to come to realize that just like an abuser, they're tearing you down. They are identical to an abuser. They just do it in a much more subtle way. They're going to tear you totally down. They're going to strip everything from you. Then they're going to make you totally dependent on them. And they're going to build you back up the way they want you to. It's going to destroy your sense of confidence. Manipulation, just like abuse, is a learned behavior. But they say that manipulators, it's more of a survival from childhood. Manipulation comes more early on, like a survival strategy. So it's hard to change. You can change if you're a manipulator. But again, you have to understand who you are and you have to identify with that. And ask yourself with every question or everything you do, am I doing this to control? Or am I doing this because this is what I want? This is what's healthy. But the bottom line, the one thing I really want you to understand from this is that you have to understand why you brought that person into your life. You have to understand it's not about the other person. It's not about the manipulator. What is it about you that drew that person to you? What is it about me that I used to only bring in older, abusive, alcoholic men? I had to figure that out. And sometimes it's not easy. You have to figure that one out too. Find out what you want in life, not what somebody wants you to be. Understand who you are. That's that bit about going in and finding out that inner child and who you are and what you're about in life. Who am I? All those exercises that we've done will help you get to this point. It's not what somebody else is wanting from you or want you to be. It's who you want to be. You have to make choices on what's healthy for you. The other thing I'd like to point out right now is no should haves. I just kind of want to throw this in there because this was pretty powerful for me when I was going to my counseling. My counselor finally put his hand on the table one time and said, "Lucia, stop saying should have. Every other word is should have. I should have done this. I should have done that. I should have. He said, "Stop saying should have. Every time you say should have, it's the same thing as hitting yourself up against the head and saying, I'm so stupid, and you believe that. That's what you're going to start believing, and you're going to start believing that you can never make a healthy choice. Stop saying should haves. Because if you should have done something different, you would have chosen something different. But it's not what we should have done because there is no what I should have done. Anything we choose is what we need at that time. There are no should haves. Let's quit beating ourselves up about that. Now I'd like to talk about understanding grief. And grief is a process. And you have to go through that process. It's also an act of love. The more you love someone or something, the greater the grief is going to be. And I like to look at it as waves. I don't know if you've ever been like to an ocean or a beach where the waves come in and they kind of go out and you're standing in the sand. Sometimes the water will come in and it kind of tickles your feet and you kind of jump around and play. Sometimes the water comes in and it's like at your calf and you're like, whoa, and you kind of have to steady yourself a little bit more. And then there's those times that wave's going to come in. It's just going to knock you on your backside and you think, wow, what happened? That's kind of how grief is. We can't control it. We just have to identify that that's what we're going through, that is grief. They say that grief can last a few weeks to several years. Few weeks, few months to several years. And you have to talk about it 300 times before your heart and your head actually acknowledge that you've lost something. I learned that. I was a facilitator for St. Vincent's Hospital for grief groups. So I learned a lot working with grief up there through St. Vincent's. But you have to talk about it 300 times before you can really accept it. And the more you fight grief, the stronger it becomes. And crying is a very healthy way to rid yourself of those toxins. They now have proof that the tears we cry when we are laughing have a different chemical makeup than the tears we cry when we're grieving. And the tears we cry when we're grieving have a lot more toxins in them, and we have to get rid of those toxins out of our body when we're grieving. So crying is a great way to get rid of those toxins. There's going to be several stages of grief. Please don't get stuck in any one stage. Just understand that it is grief and you will get through it. The first stage is denial and shock. Denial and shock. This can't be happening to me. It must be a misunderstanding. It's got to be a mistake. And you kind of look for the person or thing in that familiar places, hoping that you'll find them. You kind of don't accept the loss at this time. The next one's bargaining. And bargaining takes place before the loss. Attempting to make deals with the spouse for leaving, or maybe with the universe. And again, I just want to say, I state and say universe because I don't want to offend anybody's faith. So you can fill in there whoever that is that you want to fill in. But so bargaining is attempting to make deals with the universe to stop the change, stop the loss, begging, wishing, praying. You know, I promise if you just let this person live, I'll go to church every Sunday. Or a child might say, you know, I promise if I find my dog, I'll clean my room. There's some type of bargaining tool that's going on. That's the bargaining phase of it. Then we get into anger and resentment, feelings of wanting to fight back, get even, maybe even get even with the spouse for death, or get even with the universe for death, angry at them, blaming the universe. What did I do to deserve this? And the one thing I like to say, I know that when I was being raised, that most of us, or a lot of us, when we're being raised, we're not supposed to speak angrily at the universe or cuss at the universe. But I got to tell you, the universe is my best friend, and when I went through grief, when I went through all of my grieving process, that's the one person I took it out on. When my father died, when I came through with my abuse, I yelled at the universe. I was angry with the universe because to me, that's the one person in this world who knows the pain I really am in. And that's the one person in the world who knows I don't really mean what I say. So I'm okay with that. I just wanted to put that out there. That's a great area for me to vent my anger, my frustration, my pain. Do with that what you want. Then we go into depression. Depression is an overwhelming feeling of hopelessness, frustration, bitterness, self-pity. You mourn the loss of the person as well as their hopes and dreams that you had with that person for the future. What if you have a significant other or something, and maybe 6 months we were going to buy this new home or go on a vacation for the first time, and someone dies. So not only are you angry and upset about that person leaving and dying, but you're also angry and upset about the dreams you had together because they're also shattered. So you have to grieve those dreams along with that. You might feel out of control. You might feel numb. You might feel suicidal. This really can't be happening to me. I don't think I can bear it. You can bear it. Just tell yourself, it's grief. It's grief. You might even be at a party somewhere. You might be, some smell, some scent, the way somebody reacts, their mannerisms might set something off. Just know that it's grief and you're going to get through it. Then there's acceptance. Acceptance. There is a difference between resignation and acceptance. You must accept the loss, not just resign yourself to the loss quietly. The person's gone in death. It's not anyone's fault. That's life. They did not leave you on purpose. Even in suicide, the person who commits suicide, they weren't thinking with a healthy mind. So just grieve the loss. Eventually you'll find good memories. You'll find memories of your own. You'll start to change a little bit. Things will come back, and all of the goals that you had together are going to start turning into your own personal goals. Also, there's some other things about this too. That would be guilt and shame. Guilt and shame are very normal reactions. These feelings surface when we feel we have failed someone, not fulfilling our commitment, maybe not for betrayal, deceit behavior to someone, maybe a criminal behavior to someone. Guilt and shame are extremely powerful. They're extremely painful. And guilt and shame can be very easily turned into more tolerable feelings, such as anger and depression. I invite you that if you have a lot of anger and if you have a lot of depression, to really look at that and see if it's not guilt or shame. Maybe that's where it's stemming from. I don't know. It's just a suggestion. Another part of grief, when the events outside of our life, outside in life, happen to us. We all get hurt. We all have things through our whole life that we find that we can't deal with, or we don't know where to process it, so we bury it deep within us. We go through life acting maybe like we care, but in fact, we ourselves are suppressing some of our emotions, some of our feelings, because those feelings are unbearable. And we shut down and we build these walls. And the more walls we build and the more we shut down, the more violent, the more abusive we can become and not even feel it. We can hurt others. We can inflict pain on others if we're shut down enough and we don't even feel it. I think that's what's going on a lot with our youth today. Our youth is out there. There's so many people out there that have been so hurt and they don't know where to go to get help for that. They don't know how to process that. So they have these huge walls around them, and they just numb themselves down to the point that they can be violent. They can be abusive. They can shoot somebody and really not even feel anything for it. We have to start understanding and start helping these people go through grief, helping these teens understand what grief is, understand what they've lost. And not just teens, there's a lot of adults who have to understand the grief process and what they've lost. Know that it's grief, move forward, and they say to wait 1 year before you make any major decisions. And grief comes in cycles: birthdays, anniversaries, holidays, low emotional periods. They all bring back this feeling of loss. But when you release, when the release comes and it occurs, you're going to know it, because you're going to feel like a whole weight's been lifted off of you. And I guarantee you're going to laugh again. Just understand it's grief. Grief's a very hard thing to get through, but you can get through it. So what I'd like for you to do for this week's writing exercises is I would like for you to write down how you want to be remembered. Are you living that way to be remembered? And if not, what is one thing you can do to change so that you are remembered that way? Remember, life is not about waiting for the storms to pass. It's about learning to dance in the rain. Okay, it's that time again where I'd like to share another story with you of my own personal growth, my own personal journey. When I lived in Colombia, they invited us to go to a bullfight. And there was probably 10 or 11 of us that went to the bullfight, Americans that went to the bullfight. It was a life-changing event for me. I loved it. I was one of the few that did like it. And I sat there and was mesmerized. I hope I get my point across with this story, because it was so life-changing for me. I was mesmerized at this bullfight. And I was fixed on this. And first of all, if you've never been to a bullfight, before the main matador comes out, the bull is actually stabbed several times by lesser matadors. So he's kind of already a little weak going into the bullfight with the main matador. So the main matador comes out, and they have this beautiful integral fight between the two of them that's going on. This beautiful dance. It's gorgeous. Their eyes meet. The steam comes out of the bull's nostrils, and they're looking eye in eye. The matador gets on his knees. One time the bull clipped the matador, and I cheered for the bull, because as I was watching this, tears streamed down my eyes, because I saw my life. I connected that with my life, with everything that happened to me. We all have things. You have heard many things that I have been through. And it dawned on me right then and there, that bull made me realize no matter how many times he takes those hits, no matter how many times he's speared, he always got back up and stood strong. He always got back up and wanted to show how proud he was, how strong he was. And I thought, that's me. It dawned on me that day that it isn't about what happens to us in life. It's how we deal with it. It's how we handle it. It's how we process it. And I know for a fact that I am proud of who I am. And I am proud of how I have processed things in my life looking back on it. Nothing has ever done me under. Nothing has ever done me in. I have come back stronger with everything that has ever happened to me. And when I saw that bullfight and everything happen, it was like this release came through me. And I just let go of all anger and bitterness. And I thought, my life is beautiful. And I will always be as strong as that bull, no matter how long I live until I take my last breath. Thank you for letting me share that story with you. I really appreciate it. So that kind of ends our session for today. I just have a few things I want to remind you. Please go back and fill out the pre-test if you haven't done that already. And you can do that on our website at www.violencefreeliving.org. Also, we will accept any questions that you might have. We would love to hear your questions. We will answer all questions that come to us. And hopefully we'll use some of those questions very soon, because we're going to start an online conversation with everybody. If you'd like to be a part of that, we welcome you to do that also. So that's it for today. Thank you so much and have a great day. Bye.